A little-known occult group may have been an inspiration for one of the most terrifying ideologies of the 20th century. It formed a dark fellowship that was established nearly 100 years ago. It seems that its original members believed that they could live below the Earth's surface and fly to distant stars. Their power would be a mysterious substance called VRIL. They also believed that one day they would take over the world. They came very close. The mysterious group claimed influence in the highest ranks of the German power structure of the 1930s. This dark fellowship may have been a Nazi cult. The stories of history's dark fellowships strike fear into many hearts. But what are the truths behind the stories? Throughout history, there have been secret organizations striving for influence in political circles. But if the bizarre legends about the VRIL Society are true, the organization is particularly unsettling.
The VRIL Society is the most mysterious German secret society ever in history. They were originally founded before the Second World War, and their influence reaches out even till today.
Its members are said to have included senior figures in the Nazi Party, like Hermann Goering, Heinrich Himmler, and even Adolf Hitler.
The VRIL Society was a dark fellowship. They sought to achieve the mastery of the Aryan race.
Before they were able to influence the Nazis, VRIL occultists worked in complete secrecy, doing anything to promote Aryan power.
What they did, that ranged from straightforward political assassinations, trying to evoke the spirits of the dead, good old-fashioned, what one might call sexual orgies, and more sinisterly, human sacrifice.
Michael Fitzgerald is one of just a few historians willing to identify the secrets of the VRIL Society. Few records exist, but he claims first-hand sources.
Some of my information about the VRIL Society has come from direct sources. Some of them swore me to secrecy during their lifetime and have now died.
So he is now free to offer his assessment.
The VRIL Society was a group of people founded at the end of the First World War, and it included many people who were to go on to become prominent in the Nazi Party.
Like any secret society, it had its secret practices. But what made the VRIL Society so unique was its members' obsession with an intangible power force called VRIL.
This power was universal energy. It could do anything. All currents of harm and healing and so on were enclosed within it. It's similar to the Indian concept of prana in many ways, or the Chinese concept of qi.
Chinese philosophers believe that qi is the life energy that runs through us all. The VRIL Society believed they could harness this energy.
And they believed that VRIL power could be used to gain material power.
So they were frantically searching for this VRIL force.
Dutchman Theo Peymans has dedicated 25 years of his life to studying the VRIL Society.
My research has established that certain bureaus in Nazi Germany were frantically searching for this new energy.
Obtaining supernatural power might require supernatural efforts.
They sought the power of VRIL through a variety of different means. There were naturally meditative practices, which were obviously the mainstay of most of their activities.
But they weren't meditating to gain inner peace.
The theory is that they practice these meditation techniques in order to further the strength of the VRIL in themselves.
If it was a strength that could potentially dominate the world, wouldn't the members of the VRIL Society have done more than esoteric meditation to attain it?
They were also very involved with what one might call loosely sex magic.
There's an enormous history of sexual magic, going back to witches and witches using sexual powers. This is nothing new.
Members of the society are said to have used the magic of sex to summon the power of VRIL.
There were some sexual practices that went on in the VRIL Society.
This carnal method of harvesting VRIL was less magical and closer to an excuse for swapping partners.
They were swingers.
Group sex and meditation couldn't really be considered evil and were not exactly unique in the early 20th century. But the VRIL Society may have had more sinister rituals.
The darkest side of the VRIL was undoubtedly their belief, which dates back many thousands of years, that to sacrifice a young child will give more power than anything else if you are turning to the darkness. And that is what they did.
After the First World War, many illegitimate and orphan children lived in Bavaria. Children whose disappearance would go unnoticed. And legend had it that the VRIL of a child was the most concentrated and most powerful.
They were seen as being gateways between the astral and the material world in a way that adults were not. So consequently, they were ideal victims for human sacrifice.
Human sacrifices to harness an intangible energy. Where did this VRIL notion come from? The bizarre concept had been hijacked and distorted from a science fiction novel. After the First World War, a bizarre cult called the VRIL Society flourished in Germany. It took its name from a supernatural force, VRIL, that could bestow immense power on anyone who could harness it. The concept of VRIL was expounded in a book published in 1871 called The Coming Race, written by Edward Bulwer Lytton.
In that book, he describes an underground race called the VRIL.
And they have complete mastery of the VRIL force.
And with that, they can do almost anything.
It was pure science fiction, but it captured an audience and made them firm believers in VRIL.
And he falls through a crack and finds himself in a subterranean world inhabited by a race of super beings called the VRIL, who live down there and who have access to this magical energy, this strange electrofluid called VRIL.
VRIL?
VRIL.
VRIL.
VRIL. It gives them the power to do almost anything. They can use it to heal, they can use it to kill.
They can also destroy mankind in the blink of an eye.
And anyone who harnessed this power could wield it.
The protagonist finds out in the course of the novel that a child could use VRIL to destroy an entire city.
So imagine if this VRIL existed and got into the wrong hands. Could it be that some aspects of Nazi philosophy stem from ideas in a science fiction novel?
Lytton's novel, The Coming Race, in many respects precursored at least some of the ideology that led to the final solution.
This superior race, which is explicitly linked in the book with the Aryan races, can manifest and can control. And that just struck a chord in Europe particularly.
And following the devastation suffered from World War I, some Germans desperately wanted to associate themselves with such a superior race.
Perhaps nobody could believe that this science fiction was fiction.
The end of the book comes with a very serious warning.